Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Vegan Tour Guide Podcast with your host, Mike Knight, where we'll bring you great information about a vegan plant-based diet. It doesn't matter if you've been vegan for years, part-time vegan, or just gathering more information. This podcast is for you. Thanks again for joining, and let's get today's tour started.
Hey, everybody. What's going on? Mike Knight, Vegan Tour Guide here. Hope your day and your week is going phenomenal. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new to the show, really appreciate it. If you're coming back, thank you so much for tuning back in and helping spread the word on all things plant-based and vegan. So this show is a neat one and kind of the first time we've had this type of person on, because this show centers around what happens when you get somebody that is passionate about, the plant-based vegan world and lifestyle and the environment and helping animals. And they're passionate about that, but they take their passion to helping others. And in this case, helping others with business. And so that is exactly what David Benzaquen did. David started a company, PlantBased Solutions. And he's going to talk about that because it is, I think, as an entrepreneur myself, a very phenomenal and genius concept in that he's helping people that are in the plant-based vegan space with products, helping them take it to market, to helping them with business. Because I talk to people all the time, and a lot of times that's what it is. People within this space, a lot of us, we have ideas and we're passionate, and we come up, especially I see it a lot of times like with food products or like stuff like that, and they're like, how do I get this to the masses? How do I do that? I don't know. I need help. That's exactly what he does. So of course, I'm not doing it justice as to everything David does. He's got a phenomenal personal story as well you're going to hear. However, I really know you're going to love hearing about his side of what PlantBased Solutions does, what their mission is, and even the bigger things they see. I mean, it's a great conversation he and I have going literally A to Z, all different things, including what he sees coming in the future and all like that. I love it. Great talking with him. I know you're going to enjoy. So sit back, relax, and here's David.
Well, David, thank you so much for coming on. Welcome to the Vegan Tour Guide.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I've, of course, been reading a whole lot about what you are doing. And as someone that I'm an entrepreneur my whole life, and I love business. And that's why I've really been waiting to talk with you, because I want you to explain to everybody. But from what I've seen, I love the space that you've got in a plant-based world. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've been at it for 5 years now on the business side, and it's just so exciting to see what an impact we can have using the market.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me do this, just because what I always love to do, I love people just sharing just their journey, kind of what brought you personally to, a plant-based vegan lifestyle. What was that like for you, and kind of, because everyone's got a different path. Sometimes it's health, sometimes it's, animal, philosophical, kind of a mix. I'm just kind of curious as to what that was for you.
Sure. So at a really young age, I was passionate about a bunch of different social issues, from hunger and homelessness to women's rights, stopping wars, all kinds of things. And through learning about all kinds of social issues, the one that really came up and really moved me, among others, was specifically protection of farm animals. The fact that billions of animals every single year are killed for food and for other human uses without any need, and that we can eat so healthfully and live so well without harming them, it just really moved me to think that we could make such a difference in such a simple way. And I went vegetarian at 14, about 20 years ago. And then the day I got to college, I went to the student organization clubs fair, where all the different groups were tabling and speaking about what they do. And I went to all the social or activist clubs and asked them, if I joined this club, what will we do to make a difference? And they all had the same answer, we'll go to protests, we'll sign petitions, we'll do all these things. And those are all great. But when I got to the Animal Rights Club, the woman who was running the club said to me, we'll help you go vegan and you'll save 100 lives this year. And then every single person you help us do the same with will save that many more, and your impact will be exponential.
Wow.
Myself, wow. Right? I mean, I could go to, I was in college during the George W. Bush presidency, and I went to many anti-Iraq war rallies, and I could keep doing that till I was blue in the face. And I'm not saying I shouldn't do it. It's very important. But I couldn't single-handedly save 100 Iraqis or 100 American soldiers from dying in Iraq. But I could, with my own fork and my own wallet, make choices every single day that can save animals' lives, save my health and protect me from heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, and reduce so much of the impact on global warming from our diet. And that's so empowering and so beautiful.
That is awesome. It's, I love how you said that, because it's one thing I love telling people. That's what I love about plant-based, vegan, is that one change has this ripple effect for multiple things. Whereas, as you know, in life and business and everything else, a lot of times everything is like this direct one-on-one. You got to put one to get one to get. Whereas this, like you said, you made the one change. Now you were saving animals' lives. You were helping your own health. You were helping the environment. You were doing all these things by the one change you made. So I always love that reference, because I always love, just driving that point home to people that, this is one of those beautiful things where just the one thing means multiple.
Absolutely. It's so powerful and empowering. And that's really important. I think that when somebody is really empathetic and cares a lot about stopping cruelty or stopping injustice in the world, it can be really disheartening to know that no matter how many times you protest, or no matter how many times you see cruelty to people and animals, that sometimes you just can't do so much about it. You can do some, but you can't always stop it wholeheartedly. And here's something where I, without having to convince anybody else or put myself in any danger by, going out there and, calling out the state or calling out entities that are acting inappropriately, without doing any of that, I can make a choice that's not only not bad for me, but good for me and make such an impact. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome. All right. So you talked to her, and so right now you're vegetarian. Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went vegan that day. It was my first day of college, and I joined that club, and I became very active. And throughout college, I, thinking that I wanted to dedicate my career to social change, I decided to work in politics and nonprofits. So I studied political science, and I interned at just about every single animal group I could find, from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Compassion Over Killing, the Humane Society of the United States, PETA, Farm Sanctuary, wherever I could get involved in helping animals. I got involved Sea Shepherd. I ended up becoming the president of that club, and we got a ton done in my school to stop dissections and vivisection, to change the source of animal products that the school cafeteria was using, to ban certain cruel practices, to dramatically increase vegan options in our cafeteria and our grocery store on campus, and really just worked with the students to make impact in our local level. And it really was a spark that inspired me. And when I graduated college, I pursued that same path. I went into the nonprofit world. I worked at PETA, and then I worked at the Animal Welfare Trust. And then I spent the longest time at Farm Sanctuary, where I spent 5 years working first in fundraising and then in campaigns. And I loved the work that I did with all those organizations. I have so much respect and admiration for the people every day who are out there continuing to educate and advocate for change. And it's so powerful and moving. What I realized, though, was that everybody who was attempting to tackle this problem, the problem of factory farming and of how our choice to eat animals affects so many areas, was choosing to tackle it in the same way. And the human psychology, the consumer psychology we read shows that educating people about bad behavior is actually one of the least effective ways to get them to change their practices. So if I say to somebody, this is bad, you should stop doing this, or this is why this is bad that you're doing, people tend to retrench into their selves. You're threatening their identity, and you're implying that they're immoral. And nobody wants to be told that they're a bad person when they're not, right? We all make choices that aren't optimal choices. We might buy clothes from a sweatshop producing company, or, sweatshops, or do all kinds of things we, quote unquote, shouldn't be doing. It doesn't mean we're bad human beings. So being told that or implied that is very threatening and scary and upsetting. And so somebody can often retrench. It doesn't mean that education and advocacy aren't important. I think they're a huge part of the equation in the massive tool belt we need to tackle this very overwhelming problem. But I learned through the work I was doing and the reading I was doing about what was impactful in other movements, that what really is impactful is getting people not to feel threatened and judged, but rather to give them a view of what the alternative can be and make that more attractive.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying what you're doing is bad, I can say, isn't this great? And that different spin on it will completely open people's minds to it. You can be, hey, taste this. Doesn't this taste delicious? Oh, and by the way, it's really healthy too. What a difference than, every single time you're doing this, you're hurting people, you're hurting animals, you're a bad person. It's a different tone. And I went to hear a speech by a guy named Jeff Dunn. And Jeff Dunn was the former CEO of Coca-Cola. He had worked there for many, many years, and he worked his way up from, truck driver, route guy, and sales, all the way up to CEO through the marketing department. And when after being CEO for a number of years, he quit in kind of a crazy moment. He was in Latin America, and he saw a young child. They were in a rural area, and I don't know if it was Honduras. I forgot exactly where it was, but he saw a young child who, if you think about like those hunger ads where people are raising money for poor kids in the third world, it was the image that you imagine when we frankly exploit children in the developing world for poverty, around poverty. Child with distended belly, sunken in eyes, all those kinds of things. And he had a moment where he said to himself, they were looking at how they could increase sales of Coca-Cola in that part of the world. And he said to himself, that child needs food, he needs clean water, he needs clothing, he needs shelter, and he needs education. But he doesn't need Coca-Cola. And so he resigned from the company in kind of a scandal because he was very honest about his reasons for resigning and left shocking a lot of people. And he went on to do a speaking tour, and then eventually he went to a company called Bolt House Farms, which some people know for their juices and smoothies. And when he got to Bolt House, he said to them, I'll agree to be your CEO, but only if we start focusing on whole produce, not on juices and smoothies. They said, what are you talking about? We're a brand company. We sell based on a brand. You can't make a brand out of carrots. He said, yes, you can. Why not? And so that's what he did. He actually started a campaign called Eat 'em Like Junk Food. And they put baby carrots into chip packaging, and they sold them in bodegas and convenience stores in lower income neighborhoods across the country, particularly in places like Philly and Detroit with very high populations of juvenile diabetes, juvenile onset type 2 diabetes and cancer and obesity among young children. And they sold them with funky packaging and cartoon characters and fun names and little urban spice packets with no salt that they called things like Cool Ranch. And what he found was that overwhelmingly they were able to skyrocket sales of carrots. They put them in vending machines in schools, really funny advertising. And they did focus groups where they found that the same kids who had thought carrots were boring, expensive, tasteless a few months earlier, when this campaign came out, those same kids would come back and say they were so much cooler than they used to be. They taste better than they used to. They're cheaper. And none of that was true.
Yeah.
That's how it was presented. And so I realized if he can do that with the simple carrot, imagine what we can do with the incredible new vegan products that are coming out today to say, this is sexy, this is fun, this is delicious, and it's easy. And you don't have to identify a certain way or think about what it means about who you are as a person. Just eat this food and it's delicious, and you'll be so much happier.
And I love it. I love that segue because I love that story. I'm actually going to look up more about Jeff Dunn myself. I like that. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And
sure.
I love that segue into where I see, obviously, that is where enter PlantBased Solutions and your vision. Again, and I want you to tell people about that because, like I said, me being an entrepreneur, in addition to, just my passion for plant-based vegan, I truly love where you're coming because I know you're filling a void. And I want you to tell people about that because a lot of times in the marketplace, there are people with good intentions, good ideas. However, they don't know how to get to that starting block. And so I got an idea that is you. And please tell people what you do because I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So I started the company in 2012. And the way I came to it, and I'll explain what it does in a second, the way I came to it was when I realized that I wanted to tackle this issue from a different angle, I decided that for sure food was the issue I wanted to focus on, and how we could get vegan food into people's mouths, because the number of animals killed for food is so much greater than any other industry. And what I did was I mapped out the food industry from how it's grown and produced to how it's transported, sold, marketed, advertised, resold through retailers, consumed, cooked, all these things. I looked at how food comes from its original ingredient source to the plate and the mouth. And in looking at all those steps, I realized that the one area that was so similar to what I knew how to do was marketing. I had been doing fundraising and advocacy. And so I was already selling ideas. And now I could take great products, and I was showing people why something was so worthwhile, right? Why they should donate to a nonprofit, why they should participate in a campaign to lobby their legislator, why they should do this. And so that marketing that I had been doing translated so well into doing it for products. And in fact, with products, it's even easier because I've got something tangible that I can give you in exchange. So I say, this is great. If you buy this, you will have it, as opposed to a nonprofit. It's harder to make it tangible, even though it's very worthwhile. And so after mapping out the industry, I realized marketing was my thing. And in 2012, I launched the agency PlantBased Solutions, and we provide brand management and marketing services for plant-based consumer products companies, what's known as consumer packaged goods. So food, beverage, supplements, cosmetics, personal care items, all that are relatively inexpensive, consumed really regularly and frequently by most of the population, and where it's not a very high barrier to entry. You know, you're not asking somebody to buy an electric car. You're asking somebody to spend $4 on a veggie burger instead of a meat burger. So it's a lot easier place to enter. And we've worked with brands from pre-revenue startups that we've helped launch to global companies doing several $100 million in sales, like Gardein and companies of that nature.
Wow. Okay. So I was going to ask, I mean, obviously you showed a big spectrum there, but I'm asking, are there, for people that may be listening, you never know, are there metrics that you're looking for, or is it a lot of people actually that now kind of hear and know about you that seek you out? Or do you go out, kind of look at, again, like I said, metrics maybe you're looking, or anything about companies that people should maybe think about when contacting you?
Yeah. So the consumer packaged goods arena is very, very challenging to enter from scratch. And so we are not ourselves and our company the innovators who are thinking of new products or creating new products. We're the ones who can help somebody kill it in the market with a great product. So we're looking for people who are inspired and passionate and have a great idea or have developed something amazing and want help to get it out to the masses and make it in the open marketplace. And what we want to make sure when they do that is that because there are so many thousands of products they're competing with, just to put it in perspective, big supermarkets in this country can sell upwards of 60,000 different products in a single store. So when you're in that store, think about, getting in and then being noticed on the shelf and then being brought home and bought again. All these things are really challenging and expensive. So we want to make sure that folks are as effective and as efficient as possible. And that's where our strategy work comes in, to help them understand who is your target customer, what price is going to be the most inviting the consumers to give you that chance, what's going to be the message that's going to cut through the junk of the filter of everything else. And that's what we look at. In terms of size, we love working with early stage companies. I'm here to change the world, and I love working with big brands, and bless them for what they're doing. But, we have so much more room to grow as a movement and as an industry. So I'm always excited to try the next thing. And it's a lot of fun to work with folks and help make that dream a reality and know that we're making a great impact. I think anybody can take a company that's already selling $100 million of product and grow them to $120 million. Even if you just kind of watch it happen, you can kind of make that happen. But it's much more complicated to take a company from 0 to 10 million annual sales, and that's a very exciting thing to be involved in. That said, as long as they're vegan products, we look forward to working with anybody who is thinking about how to make a difference and, wants to collaborate with folks who understand the industry, even if we don't know their product, and that collaboration can be really great.
Nice. And so for people listening, and I want to make sure I read in as well. I mean, you can help take them all the way per se, even negotiating within like the stores and even because I know I had a buddy that years ago worked for like Black & Decker. And I remember always talking with him about, that was his thing. He would, call in big accounts like your Lowe's, Home Depot, and he would go in and even, he's trying to make sure they have in-cap space, or that, it'd always be, like you said, being, presentable for that 60,000 items. So, I mean, you kind of carry it even to that extreme if need be?
So we're not personally involved in the sales or distribution of products. But we help with all the strategy, all of the management and execution of every marketing and branding and advertising and PR, everything that is promoting the product either to consumers or also to the trade partners they need to convince. So,
gotcha.
How are we helping you present and prepare yourself to be in front of distributors, in front of retailers, in front of brokers and buyers and all these things? And we also help companies raise a lot of money. So we work with a syndicate of investors all over the world who are mission-driven like us and looking to invest in great vegan companies. We can help companies to prepare for that fundraising and to raise it. And when a company is launching, we're getting them ready to be as effective as possible. Once they're in market, we are like an outsourced chief marketing officer who's managing their day-to-day success in the marketplace. So we're setting their metrics to set goals for what their success will look like. What level of sales this month, how many new people should try the product to reach our goals that will get this many new customers, all that kind of thing. And then we plan out exactly what activities they should be doing and can constantly improve on it as we learn what works for their product and their channel within the marketplace. So we'll find out, this product is selling best at 3 p.m., not at noon, and it sells best among women who are 41 to 45. And so this is the tactic that's going to be most attractive. Let's do sampling outside the store at that time. Or let's do social media at 3 p.m. on Twitter because that's when that age group is there, or whatever it is.
That I love it. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I wanted you to explain it so I didn't butcher anything. But I mean, I love. Again, I truly do. The space you've now filled, because I talk to people all the time. Just because, again, my thing is I want to just put people's stories out there because I love when people can connect. And I tell people, that plant-based vegan's for everyone. There is no, certain demographic or anything. So that's my mission behind this. And I talk to a lot of people that they're at that great idea stage, and a passion. However, they've never even possibly been in business, they know they have something good and a passion. However, they don't know how to get it to market. And that's why I just love the space and the idea you've brought and the company you've built now to do this. Because I think it will help accelerate so much stuff in, plant-based vegan space. I mean, I love it because it's definitely needed, with this growing space.
Thank you. And I think one thing I want to emphasize, not only about how we work, but how I really recommend that others who are entering this space work, is that it's so great that we are driven by our mission, and it's so important that we hold to our values, and that is core to who we are. But when we think about how we're executing our work, it should be about doing the best job we can no matter what. Don't enter the business because you're going to be a second-rate person who happens to care. That doesn't help the animals. That doesn't help the earth. That doesn't help health. If you're going to go out there, you need to believe and you need to be willing to fight to be the best agency, the best brand, the best this, because that's what those who we are trying to help deserve and need. And so it's nice to care. We should care. It is why we do this. I would not be if you told me tomorrow I could either stop doing it for vegan products or I could either do the same work for non-vegan products or do other work for vegan products. I would choose to do the other work for vegan products. It's why I do it. But when it comes to the execution, I'm not here to try to convince consumers to eat things for the reasons I do. I'm here to make sure that we replace every meat burger with a veggie burger, every glass of milk with a non-dairy milk, that we save one animal at a time, day by day, over and over again. And that means what's going to be the most effective thing? What's going to cut through the clutter? Most consumers are moved by things different than a lot of us, and that's okay. Let's speak to them and show them that we also care about what's affecting them. We also are sensitive to the fact that it's expensive to eat in general and that we want to be responsive to that and show them that they're great, affordable options. So how are we being as effective as possible? And I tell my clients, I care, but when it comes to the business, I am going to be as tough as I can on them because I want them to be the biggest brand out there, not because I care about the money. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this because I'm making about as much as I did in the nonprofit world. I care about their success. I care about their success because that's how we save lives. My premise is that every single sale of a vegan product we make, we are reducing the amount of animals, heart attacks, and trees that are destroyed. And so my job is to get as many of those sold as possible, period. Anything that stands in the way of that is not supporting the mission.
Well, I love your passion. That's one thing. I was actually having a conversation with a gentleman last night. We were talking about business things and all. I said, there's a lot of things in life I think you can, as a company owner, hire and train and try to implement. I said, but passion to me is something that's just got to be in somebody. It's got to be there. So I love hearing the passion with you. And I love, like you said, this is what you've chosen by your own free will. You have other options in life, your skill set and all like that. However, that way people coming to you know they've got somebody that doesn't just want to, quote, churn out the next business widget, if you will. But, you're putting your passion into that as well. And I love hearing that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we care so much about what we're doing. And it's that combination of being driven by, what's exciting is that because we recognize that this is a mission, we are driven to do everything we can for our clients because they're part of our family, not in some cheesy way, but genuinely they're trying to save the world and so are we. So in much the way that people in the nonprofits are willing to go to the ends of the earth to make it successful, we're the same way. But we're also being efficient. The people that I bring onto my team all have decades of experience at the top of the food industry. My managing director, Mary, served at the executive levels of marketing at Kraft, Ocean Spray, and Duracell.
Oh, my gosh.
She cares. Yeah, she cares
That's
a
awesome.
lot. But she also brings the chops. And that's what we take seriously, is that when we're walking into that room, that brand is going to kill it because we're going to bring the best practices that happens to be underpinned by this incredible mission rather than cute work for good cause.
Mm-hmm. And I love that because, and I think, and again, not just saying this because you're not talking, but seriously, I love that you're now, I'm going to use the word advocate within the plant-based vegan world, if you will, because as you and I see now, and look, I welcome it. There's a lot of these bigger companies now that, quote, are coming into the space with buying percentages of companies and stuff like that. And I'm one of those people, I'm happy about it. I still, to be blunt sometimes, I'm like, all right, what is maybe their true mission? Is it one of those, they see the, if you will, the writing on the wall, so they're just trying to jump into space because of, hey, let's at least get in on, this economic, growing sector. And so I love knowing that, like, you and your company are there, that the core premise is the passion for plant-based vegan, not the core being, look, this is a growing sector, let's get in to make money. You know what I mean? So I love knowing that.
Yeah, I think that the question of how do we react to the mainstream jumping into this opportunity is an important one to think about. And, on the one hand, we've seen for years companies butcher missions and take advantage of consumers and really destroy what are really important values. On the other hand, we've seen that as that's gotten harder through transparency and social media, and as awareness of the problems with a lot of these foods and products has grown even in the largest boardrooms, we have seen real change. I was on a panel 2 years ago. I can't say the company, but one of the 5 largest food companies in America, their general counsel was on the panel with me. And I was at a very conventional conference on law around tobacco and food. And it was almost all big food and big tobacco companies talking about how to stop regulations. And I was on a panel about labeling and how it makes it harder for healthy and sustainable companies, particularly plant-based, to be successful because they keep on trying to stop us from using words like milk and things like that, when really consumers for years have known that soy milk is not implied to be cow's milk. And after the panel, this gentleman came up to me, this general counsel from this huge food company, and he said to me, "Can you really make a living like this?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm doing fine, and not rolling in dough, but I'm happy and I'm able to support my family and everything else." He said, He said, for 30 years, I've been doing this work, and I've never once felt satisfied with what I'm doing. And I never, ever thought that I could make a living believing in what I do. He said, can I take you to lunch so you can help me figure out what I do next? He was 62 years old. And a year later, he left that company, and he's now running a socially driven food company that is entirely focused on reducing hunger in the world. And he had never thought he could do that. And he gave up what he saw as a safe but unsatisfying career to change the world. So even in the biggest halls, we are making a difference and people are reacting. The other thing, though, is the opportunity for big companies to get involved in this, regardless of the mission or the motivation of individuals there, is that we can save so many more animals and so many more people if we have the scale and efficiencies they have. And there are risks and challenges and other problems that come with scale. I don't want to deny that, but I think it's something that we should be open to, keep a critical but open mind to, and think about the benefits and the costs equally and not be dismissive either way. Two books that I can recommend to your listeners that I think do an excellent job of exposing or looking at this issue on both sides of the equation. One is called Mission in a Bottle. It's by Seth Goldman, who founded the Honest Tea Company. And when he founded Honest Tea, it was considered one of the most socially driven, transparent companies in the food world, because he would put out a report card on their social metrics and success. And every year they would say what they pledged to do the next year. And he was the first one to say when they failed to meet one of their social missions. And he was very public about it, even though it might have been hurting his shareholder value, because he cared that deeply. When he sold his company to Coca-Cola, he got thrashed in the natural food and healthy and sustainable worlds. And he wrote that book to explain what people didn't see. By selling to Coca-Cola, which he didn't do because he wanted to walk away with a ton of money, what he did was he leveraged the excitement and demand they had for his brand because of all the incredible connections he had made with consumers through his product to force Coca-Cola to dramatically reduce GMOs, dramatically reduce their virgin plastic and plastic at all in exchange for plant plastics, dramatically reduce the amount of sugar they have in their beverages. He got them to commit to a very aggressive timeline to making massive changes, not in his company, but in the entire Coca-Cola empire across all brands. And they've been meeting and exceeding those targets. And so he used the excitement that consumers have for transparency, for honesty, for healthy, and for sustainable to force one of the big giants to the table and say, you see that this is the future. You see that you will fail if you don't get on the bandwagon and move towards what consumers are demanding now, then I'm going to force you to make those changes. And so that book is an amazing read to see how there is real opportunity to make a difference by working with the big food industry. Another book on the other side, which is just as fascinating and really deeply moving also, is Raising the Bar by a guy named Gary Erickson. And Gary Erickson founded Cliff Bar, which was named after his love of rock climbing and after his father, Cliff. And it starts where he's in a parking lot about to walk into the Quaker headquarters where he's going to sign away his company after years of negotiating. And he has a panic attack in the parking lot, and he has a nervous breakdown. He writes about this in the first few pages of the book. And in that moment, he decides to walk away from Quaker. And he calls his business partner, and she says, if you don't go through with this, I won't let you stay in the company. I'll get rid of you, and I'll ruin you. And he says, what would it take to be able to do this? And she says, buy me out for double my worth in the company. And he does, and he goes into crazy debt. And he starts the company over basically from scratch, having to streamline everything and focus like a tiny company on rebuilding from scratch because they lost their connections to big business. He lost his business partner and now had a huge load of debt. Within 3 years, he had grown the business so much further than anybody thought was possible by sticking to his guns, by supporting his workers who he was scared were going to get screwed by the acquisition, and by doing things the right way. So they're two opposite stories, but I really love them because I think they show how we can have an open mind to both sides and think about those things openly.
That's awesome. I know somebody that you're talking to right now that will probably be jumping on Amazon tonight to order 2 books.
And I should mention Seth Goldman, who wrote that book, Mission in a Bottle, and founded Honest Tea. is now the chairman of the board at Beyond Meat. He is super passionate about this movement.
Cool.
I've spoken with him and had him on panels I've moderated. He's a great guy, and he's fully behind us in this revolution for a plant-based world.
Nice. All right. Wow. All right. Beyond Meat. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Well, man, I love this. This is why I always love talking to people, because I never know where our conversation will go. And I appreciate all that you've brought. Let me ask you this. And I know sometimes maybe some things you're working on, so I definitely know the business aspect that maybe some things you can talk about, can't. Any exciting companies that maybe you're working with now that you just started working with or anything like that you just, you're just like real excited about maybe what they're bringing, the products and all, and the opportunities?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've been doing as we've grown and matured as an agency is we're able to work with a smaller number of more select opportunities where we can be more deeply involved and focus more of our time on a smaller number of things, so we're not all over the place. I love working with companies at any stage, but it's something really special when you become, when you can get your hands dirty and really help create something in a partnership. And we've been working very closely with one founder right now to do that. And that company is called Ocean Hugger Foods. And your listeners may have heard of the product Tomato Sushi. So we are partners in that business.
Yeah.
The founder. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. The founder, certified master chef James Corwell. Jimmy is one of the greatest human beings I know, and it is an honor for us to work with him to bring that product to market and many more to come. We launched it in October in a few stores here in New York as a proof of concept. We've raised a small amount of capital, and we'll be exhibiting at the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago in May, where we've already got a lot of bites for sales on a very, very large scale, both in the U.S. and internationally. And we're planning on scaling very broadly, very quickly. So we're excited for consumers to find out about that. Our new website is going to be at oceanhuggerfoods.com very shortly. But in the meantime, you can go to tomatosushi.com and find Tomato Sushi on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And we'd love for people to check it out and get excited for it to be in your town.
Oh, Deb, I'll put that in the show notes for sure. I'll definitely put in the show notes so everyone can check that out. All right, nice. All right, well let me ask you this. With you seeing, obviously, the market and everything, I'm curious, anything you see really developing, if you will? I mean, I know this may be a loaded question, but within plant-based vegan, just kind of you're like, right, this right here is a sector that's taking off and you're excited about it? Or I know we're still in initial growth phase, so like I said, I know it's a loaded question, but anything you see just for people to be on the lookout that you really think is going to make big strides?
Yeah, I think we're at the precipice of a lot of breakthroughs. One thing is the explosion in the use of seaweeds and algae. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of species of seaweeds and microalgae that people have never heard of. And these plants, just like land plants, come in so many varieties. People think that they're all one thing. The reality is every single one of those thousands of species has different functional capabilities for use in food or in supplements or anything else, and has different nutritional properties. So as those are being explored, the things we can create are unbelievable. We have a client who's making a plant-based mayonnaise with algae protein instead of eggs. We have companies that are looking at using we've spoken to scientists and academics at the university out in Oregon State University who have discovered a strain of dulse, which is a kind of seaweed that when cooked tastes like bacon. So the things we can do today as we're exploring new land and ocean plants and discovering how unbelievable the proteins and the protein digestibility and the omega profiles and how they function in food to bind, to emulsify, to leaven, to, all these different things they can do just like the ingredients we're used to. That's exciting and unbelievable. And so I'm convinced that the next big thing is definitely algae-based products. And for those who are concerned that means green and slimy, there's a lot to see because the way these products can be used is so incredible and so broad, and a lot of exciting innovation to come. Another area that's not necessarily specifically in the plant-based space, but is aligned for mission in a lot of ways and is one to certainly keep an eye on, is the work around culturing animal proteins in bioreactors. And there are companies now that are making meat from duck and chicken and turkey and beef and all these things in a petri dish, in a very safe and clean way, where they don't have any of the greenhouse gas emissions. They don't have any of the cruelty from raising and slaughtering animals. And they can protect our human health so greatly by preventing contamination from all of the feces and all of the death and destruction that you see in factory farms. You know, when you're seeing all those animals, you know, the vast majority of those chickens have E. coli. You know, there's so much disease spreading. It's the reason we have things like bird flu and swine flu spreading all over the world, because we are pumping these animals with antibiotics. We're keeping them in conditions where they're spreading disease like crazy. And so for both humans and animals, it's extremely dangerous. But now, in a completely sterile environment, we can grow a protein that is taste, texture, and functionally identical to the proteins we're used to eating from animals without harming a single animal or putting ourselves at risk. That's a very exciting thing. Just a few weeks ago, a company called Memphis Meats out of San Francisco, which is led by cardiologist Uma Valetti, showed on a video their first tasting party of cultured duck and cultured chicken, and the reaction was extraordinary. Mark Post in Europe has created the first cultured hamburger, and meatballs have been made by Memphis Meats too. Perfect Day Foods is working on milk and dairy products. And while it's not exactly plant-based, it is a very exciting innovation for me because I see the opportunity to prevent disease and cruelty and so much of the environmental devastation that comes from raising animals for food and wiping it out without having to sacrifice taste or texture.
All right, this is it. All right, I'm flying up tomorrow to be an intern. I mean, you get all the cool, it's like you're like the kid on the block with all the cool toys before the rest of us do. I mean, all this knowledge and these companies you get through. This is awesome. Like I said, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So hearing you talk about all these cool companies with these just cool breakthroughs, I love it. Oh, my gosh, that is, I love hearing that.
Mike, have you ever been to the Natural Products Expos?
No.
Okay, so I've got a tip for you.
Yes.
As a member of the media, which you are certainly for their considerations, you are entitled to go free to these trade shows. The ones I recommend are the Natural Products Expo. There's Natural Products Expo West every March in Anaheim, and the East Show is in Baltimore in September every year. And these are tens of thousands of people, not open to consumers. It's only for people in the industry and media accounts. Who are tasting all the new products that aren't out on shelf yet, because it's all the brands showcasing what they're going to be launching in the next few months, and they're there to pitch it to buyers and distributors and investors and such. There's thousands of companies, including many of the top vegan companies in the world, there to showcase their greatest new stuff. You've got to come and check it out. It's so much fun.
Oh, I'm there.
It's Disney World for natural food.
I love it. I love it. Well, all right. Well, my gosh, we've covered so much. Thank you. I mean, anything else you want to make sure we talk about? Anything you've got coming out with your company you want to highlight? I know I'll definitely put your website, of course, in the show notes. I mean, anything else you want to talk about?
I appreciate it. Anybody who wants to reach out, please feel free to reach out personally to me at david@PlantBasedSolutions.com. I welcome hearing from you. For any entrepreneur or business that has a plant-based consumer product or has only plant-based consumer products that they'd be asking us to help with, or they're thinking about seeking help from somebody like us, I offer 1 hour free consulting to anybody in that space who I haven't worked with before. I don't consult business service providers like vegan coaches or things like that. Love what you do, but it's not my expertise. I really love products. But anybody who's looking at exploring, what we do or even just wants to understand the industry and how they might go about it, I will spend that hour giving you so much information in the hopes that maybe we can be valuable to you in either way, that you go out there and you kick butt as a vegan entrepreneur. And our website's under construction right now. It is up, but it is stripped to the bare bones as we redo it. So anybody who wants to learn more about us, the best way is to email me. Again, that's david@PlantBasedSolutions.com, and I will send you a deck which has our team listed and our services and case studies and a portfolio of our clients we've been honored to work with, and you can really get a sense of who we are and how we work. And I'd be thrilled to hear from you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, look, hey, David, thank you so much. I learned a lot, and I look forward to staying in touch. And I love it. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time. Thank you for what you're doing to spread the good word. And anybody else, one last thing I just want to say is that this movement is continuing to grow. And on the business side, we are building a foundation that can support every new entrepreneur and every new product together. We need everybody at this. We need more marketers. We need more investors. We need more designers. We need more salespeople. We need more distributors. Any skill that you have, it can be used to advance the solutions to the problem. These products that are going to replace the bad and offer something delicious, sustainable, healthy, and ethical to the world. And so if you're thinking about going into a social goods space, I encourage you to look at the opportunity to help vegan companies in any number of ways, or to start one yourself. Would love to talk to you all about how to help do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That is awesome.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great rest of your weekend. It's a real pleasure speaking with you. I appreciate the time.
Oh, yeah, you too.
All right, David, thank you so much. Once again, fantastic talking with you. I really enjoyed it. I got a ton out of this, and I'm sure everyone listening to this did too. And I really appreciate you sharing. I mean, just the stories you brought. I mean, I love the books. And everyone, again, don't worry, I'm going to put these in the show notes. But, again, like you went over Mission in a Bottle, by Seth Goldman, and then Raising the Bar by Gary Erickson. Again, 2 books that are now on my Amazon book order list. I will definitely be getting those. And then just your feedback. I mean, talking about the speech from Jeff Dunn when he was with Coca-Cola, I loved hearing all that. And it's great information for people out there in the audience listening. I hope you got a lot out of, what he told you, like his company's looking for, and how he loves like the early stage companies. That's kind of part of their passion, because also he sees passion within people there. And it's great. I mean, to know that someone is doing what he's doing within the plant-based vegan space is that, he's bringing his skill set plus the people he's now surrounded with him on his team to really help people that are looking to break into this market and to grow into this market. And I'm so glad that that's out there, because that's what we need is, just somebody that can help, with a lot of these startups, because there's a ton of them, and that is great. I mean, we all see it's in the news now. You see it everywhere that, I just saw an article today on CNN about it. I mean, that just plant-based vegan is growing. It's being so much more widely accepted, and that people are realizing what it is on all levels, health, and that we have environmental concerns. People are really starting to see that and wake up that we have these legitimate environmental concerns we have to address. We have to find a way to address, and plant-based vegan is doing that. And so I'm so glad that we have, again, if you will, this proponent with PlantBased Solutions and what David and them are doing to help these companies, get that learning curve out of the way quicker. As I mentioned before in the show, I'm an entrepreneur myself. And so a lot of times I tell you, it's awesome to have someone that you can really lean on to help shorten that learning curve. I mean, there is nothing wrong with shortening a learning curve. I mean, to me, that is, it saves you a lot of time and money and headaches. And so I'm so glad that's out there. It's so cool hearing about, kind of what he sees up and coming, seaweeds and algae. Very cool. That is something, I'll be honest, I haven't heard a lot about, but I will now be studying and researching more about that. So, again, great show. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and helping spread the word. I know I say it a lot, but I really appreciate it, because I continue to get information from people that, hey, I was referred to your show, or so-and-so sent me the link. So I love that. Sign up for the newsletter. Again, you can sign up on the website, VeganTourGuide.com. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter to stay in touch with you. At the same time, join us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. All those are Vegan Tour Guide. So that's all you got to do to find us anywhere is Vegan Tour Guide on all those mediums. Again, just thank you so much. Look forward to hearing from you soon. As always, you can email me, vegantourguide@gmail.com. Love hearing from you. Answer every email. And I want to give a shout out as well to Pat Flynn for the information and inspiration for the podcast, and to bensound.com for the use of the audio and music in this show. And thank you so much, everybody. And don't forget to live Pura Vida.